Okay, hold on tight, because we're about to take a deep dive into a world of ancient politics, moral dilemmas, and let's just say the Nephites are going to have their hands full.
Yeah, we're cracking open the Book of Helaman.
Part of the Book of Mormon, right?
Right. And just for context, the Book of Mormon, published back in 1830, it's considered scripture by Latter-day Saints. Helaman zeroes in on, like, a specific period in Nephite history.
The Nephites, they've got a whole backstory, don't they? This isn't their first rodeo.
Oh, absolutely. We're talking generations down the line from Nephi, you know, the guy who led a group out of Jerusalem way back when. The Nephites have seen it all. Peace, war, prosperity, you name it.
And it's never a straight line with them, is it? It's like this up and down, up and down.
Exactly. Cycles of righteousness and, well, let's just say things don't always stay rosy. But that's part of what makes their story so fascinating.
So where are we dropping in as the Book of Helaman begins?
Imagine this bustling city, Zarahemla, the Nephite capital, center of government, religion, the whole 9 yards, and they're ruled by judges. Think of them as a combo of political and spiritual leaders. Pretty powerful positions.
Okay, so Zarahemla, the place to be if you're a Nephite. But it sounds like things are about to get interesting based on chapter 1. Power struggles, right?
Right off the bat. It starts with a death. A judge named Pahoran dies, leaving the void. And you know what they say about nature abhorring a vacuum?
Someone's always ready to step in, especially when power is up for grabs.
Sadly, that's often the case. Pahoran had 3 sons, and they all had different ideas about who should inherit the throne, so to speak.
Give us the rundown. Who are the players in this little drama?
Well, there's Pahoran II. Seems like a decent guy. Then there's Peikumeni. And lastly, Payanki. He's our troublemaker. The ambitious one, you could say.
Ambitious, like, I'll just take what I want kind of way.
Pretty much. He doesn't have the support to legitimately claim the judgment seat, so he does what any rational person would do, incites a rebellion.
Whoa. Hold up. Rebellion. Things just went from 0 to 60 real quick.
Right. Luckily, the Nephites get wind of his little plan, and Payanki ends up, well, let's just say he doesn't get to rule for very long.
Okay, but something tells me his followers weren't too thrilled about that.
You got it. And that's where things get really dicey. Remember, we're in Zarahemla, the heart of Nephite civilization. Well, this guy, Kishkumen, fueled by the rage of Payanchi's followers, he assassinates Pahoran II in cold blood.
No way. Right there in the judgment seat. Talk about adding insult to injury.
It really shows you how fragile peace can be. And get this, Kishkumen gets away with it. Vanishes.
He just disappears. That's not ominous at all.
Well, he's not working alone.
Yeah.
This is where Gadianton enters the picture. He's introduced in this chapter.
Yeah.
And let's just say he's got a knack for deception, murder, robbery, all the things your mother warned you about.
That's charming.
Oh, yeah, a real charmer. And guess what? He ends up protecting Kishkumen. They become this dynamic duo of mischief, escaping into the wilderness to avoid justice.
And they just, set up shop in the wilderness, start their own little society of,
A secret combination, the text calls it. And it's more than just a cool name. It highlights how organized they are. They're a real threat to the Nephites, a hidden cancer, working against the good of society.
So we've got political assassination, a shadowy puppet master. This is already more drama than an afternoon soap opera. What happens next? Where do we go from here?
Oh, you know, it's just getting started.
So Gadianton and his band of, let's just say, concerned citizens are out there somewhere. I can only imagine the chaos they're cooking up.
Well, it's funny you should say chaos because things are about to get complicated. Chapter 2 really dives into this. Downward spiral the Nephites seem to be on. Remember how we talked about their history being cyclical righteousness followed by wickedness?
Yeah, it's like a roller coaster you can't get off. What kind of shenanigans are they up to this time?
It's less about specific events and more this. Creeping decay. On the surface, they're thriving, building up their cities, becoming known for their craftsmanship. They're becoming this advanced society. Their cities are growing like crazy, and they're swimming in wealth, gold, silver, all the good stuff.
And that's when the alarm bells start going off in my head. Isn't that how it always goes? Too much prosperity, and suddenly everyone forgets about the bigger picture.
The Book of Helaman points out this human tendency. We get a little taste of the good life, and it's easy to become complacent. Pride sets in. We start thinking we did it all on our own.
And bam! Before you know it, you're on the fast track to wickednessville.
Exactly. And the saddest part is, the Nephites, they're keeping all these records. They care about their history, but it's like, are they even reading it? Because they keep repeating the same mistakes.
Talk about a vicious cycle. It makes you wonder, are they even aware of what they're doing? Or are they so caught up in their wealth and success that they're blind to the warning signs?
I think that's the question that hangs over everything, and that's where Helaman's sons come in, Nephi and Lehi.
Oh yeah, they're about to shake things up a bit, right? They don't exactly mince words when it comes to calling out the Nephites' bad behavior.
Chapter 3 is where they really take center stage.
Mm.
Nephi, especially, he goes all in, trying to get the Nephites to wake up and smell the tape. Well, you get the picture.
So what's his strategy? Fire and brimstone sermons?
He definitely doesn't hold back.
Yeah.
The text describes him standing on a tower, pouring out his heart to the people, warning them about what's coming if they don't change their ways. Talking about secret murders, those Gadianton folks we mentioned. Basically lays down the law. You're worshiping riches instead of God, and it's going to come back to bite you. But there's this other side to him too, this genuine sorrow, this pleading for them to turn back to God, this desperate hope that they'll listen.
So what happens? Do they?
Here's the kicker. They try to discredit him, especially the judges, the corrupt ones, of course. They see Nephi as a threat to their whole system.
Well, yeah. Can't have a prophet running around spoiling their fun. But Nephi's not just going to sit back and let them ignore him, is he?
Oh, heck no. And this is where it gets good. To prove he's the real deal, he reveals that he knows about a recent murder. And not just any murder. He names the murderer, one of those corrupt judges.
No way. Talk about a power move. He just called him out in front of everyone.
It's epic. But here's the thing. Even after that, even with their own chief judge lying dead, some people still don't believe him. They're so deep in their wickedness that they'd rather stick with their comfortable lies than face the truth.
Wow, talk about stubborn. They literally just saw this guy predict a murder and they're still not convinced. It's like, what will it take? A plague of locusts.
Well, how about that?
All right, so Nephi just dropped the mic with that murder prediction, but he also hinted at some pretty serious consequences if the Nephites didn't get their act together. What happens next?
Well, let's just say chapter 4 does not disappoint when it comes to drama. The Nephites, as predicted, find themselves facing the music. Famine hits Zarahemla, and it's brutal.
No last-minute change of heart, no collective, oh snap, maybe we should have listened to the prophet moment.
Nope. It seems like they needed a little more than words this time. A more, shall we say, tangible reminder that their wealth and fancy cities couldn't protect them from everything. The text doesn't sugarcoat it either. Thousands die.
Thousands. Wow, that really drives home the point that all the gold and silver in the world can't help you when there's no food on the table.
Exactly. It's a stark illustration of how fragile material wealth can be. But here's the thing. In the midst of this suffering, in the ashes of their complacency, we start to see a flicker of, well, maybe not hope, but at least a recognition of their own vulnerability.
So they finally hit rock bottom.
You could say that. Remember those judges, the ones who were so quick to dismiss Nephi? They're now the ones begging him to intervene, to plead with God on their behalf.
Talk about a humbling experience. It's got to be tough to swallow your pride like that, especially when you were so convinced you had it all figured out.
It's a powerful moment. In their desperation, they finally turn back to God, acknowledging that maybe, just maybe, they need something more than their own strength and ingenuity to get through this.
So does the famine end? Does Nephi actually forgive them after all that?
He does. And it's a beautiful moment of compassion. Instead of saying, I told you so, Nephi prays for mercy. He pleads with God on their behalf. And guess what?
Don't leave me hanging.
The rains return, the land heals. It's a second chance, a fresh start. You'd think they'd learn their lesson after all that, right?
You'd hope so, but something tells me it's not going to be that easy.
Well, you've been paying attention. Chapter 5 rolls around, and guess what? They're right back to their old tricks. Wickedness, pride, the whole 9 yards.
Ugh, it's like they're addicted to this cycle of self-destruction. You almost have to admire their commitment to repeating the same mistakes, almost.
It's frustrating, isn't it? It really highlights how easy it is to fall back into old habits, especially when times are good. Staying righteous, staying humble when you're surrounded by prosperity, that's the real test.
And this time, just to add a little spice to the mix, their wake-up call comes from a very unexpected source, right? A Lamanite prophet named Samuel.
Bingo. Talk about a plot twist. Samuel, a prophet from the people the Nephites often considered their enemies, he shows up in Zarahemla with a message that's even more, well, let's just say he gets their attention.
Okay, I'm intrigued. How does he shake things up?
He doesn't just preach. He puts on a show. He climbs on top of the city wall. Talk about a power move, and starts preaching about impending doom. But he doesn't stop there. He goes on to describe in detail the signs that will accompany the birth and death of Jesus Christ.
Whoa. Talk about foreshadowing. He's connecting their very real, very immediate problems to this much larger cosmic narrative.
Exactly. He's raising the stakes, showing them that this isn't just about them or their little corner of the world. It's about everyone. It's about the eternal consequences of the choices we make, for good or for bad.
And that's something that really resonates even today, doesn't it? The idea that we have these choices to make, and those choices have real consequences, both for ourselves and for the world around us.
It's a powerful message. And I think that's the beauty of diving deep into these stories, even thousands of years later. They challenge us, they make us think, they remind us that we're not so different from those who came before.
Yeah. The Nephites, with all their drama and intrigue, they become a mirror. We see ourselves in their struggles, their triumphs, their failures. And we have to ask ourselves, are we going to repeat the mistakes of the past? Or are we going to choose a different path?
That's the question, isn't it? And unfortunately, we don't get the answers in this deep dive. But that's okay, because the journey, the exploration, that's half the fun.
It is. And who knows, maybe along the way we discover something about ourselves we didn't expect.
Reflecting our own lives, our own hearts.
And that's what makes this deep dive so fascinating. Thanks for joining us on this journey through the Book of Helaman. We'll see you next time as we continue to uncover the mysteries and timeless messages within the Book of Mormon.